how to create a database in Oracle Cloud, that's OCI, using step-by-step procedure, and what each configuration mean during this database provisioning on cloud. I'm going to cover all this in today's episode. Welcome to episode 36 of weekly video series with me, Atul Kumar, from team K21 Academy, where we help you in your journey to Oracle Cloud and transition you from a beginner to an expert in Oracle Cloud. Now, before I tell you how to provision the database on Oracle Public Cloud, if you are a complete beginner in Oracle Cloud or new to Oracle Cloud as a DBA, then I highly recommend you to visit my previous post, which is available on k21academy.com/clouddba11. I've covered different service models, OCI basic concepts, different type of databases, additions, and anything that I think will find it relevant. I'll keep updating this post. So have a look at Cloud DBA 11. Then in order to provision the database, you go to cloud.oracle.com, and then from this button here, click on sign into account. If you don't have an account, I've done a previous episode, which is episode 30, in which I've covered how to register for this Oracle free trial account. You will also get a step-by-step activity guide on this post, that is k21academy.com/30. Now, if you're noticing here on this free tier, what is this free tier? Which Oracle in open world announced this always free tier. With that, you get 2 autonomous databases, 2 Linux machines, and 1 load balancer. And how do you create that service? How do you create that always free autonomous or always free Linux? Again, one of the previous episodes, which is k21academy.com/32. So it's episode 32. So you click here, click on to sign into account. You enter your account name, and then on the next screen, you enter your email address and the password. You land on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure OCI console. From hamburger menu here on left, you go and provision these databases. Now, before you go and provision database, these databases will be provisioned in a specific region or country. And if you select here, if you see here, so I have a default here UK South, which means my databases will be created in UK. If you want to create them to a different region, then you select here and click on Manage Region, or you can go from here, hamburger menu again, and then click on Administration, and then say Region Management. And from here, you can see all the additional regions that you can subscribe. Now, what is region? And within region, you also have a concept of availability domain and fault domain. So what is region? What is availability domain and fault domain? You can look at k21academy.com/OCI27. Now, once you've selected your appropriate region in which you want to create the database, you click here under databases. These are various database options. You can create either a bare metal or VM or Exadata, these 3 type of databases which are user managed databases, or you can create autonomous databases, ADW or ATP, or you can also create the Exadata Clouded Customer. Now, if you want to know more about what these different type of databases are, so you can have a look at k21academy.com/34. So now let's click here. We are going to create a VM DBCS virtual machine database cloud service. So first thing you're going to do is you're creating this database inside a compartment. Now, compartment is a logical collection of your resources or any OCI resource that you create, like database, Linux machines, load balancers, network, anything that you create will go into compartment. On that compartment, you can create an identity and access management policy and then apply that policy onto a group and give that appropriate access, whether it's a read access or read write access, create, destroy access to that group, and user who's member of that group will get that appropriate access. So that's how you grant access or security in OCI. Now, if you want to go more deep about what is compartment and how do you write these policies, I've covered all this in the previous episode, which is OCI 21. So you can have a look at k21academy.com/OCI21. So I'm leaving the default compartment root, and then you say create DB system. Now you specify here which compartment I'm creating into the root compartment, and then now I'm selecting the DB name. So I'll say my first DB, which is K21 Academy DB01, and then you select the availability domain. Availability domains are the data centers within that geographical region, in this case, UK. So UK has three availability domain. Other countries might have less availability domain. So it ranges either the three availability domain or one availability domain. The first four regions that came, they have all three availability domain, while the recent remaining ones are with one availability domain. So you might see in your country just one availability domain over here. Again, as I said earlier, if you want to go further deep or learn what is availability domain and a region, you can have a look at previous episode, that is k21academy.com/OCI 27. Now, you select what kind of a database it's. We've already decided that we want virtual machine. Then you select shape, which means VM standard 2 here. And let me show you shapes here. Now, because it's my trial account right now I'm using, so in the trial account, I have access to only create VM standard 2.1, which means it's a generation 2 shape, which is X7 type machine or X7 type Linux machine. And on that, I have only one node or one CPU I'm allowed. I can go and raise a request or to increase my limit if I want. I'll leave it to default one here for the time being. Now this node count one means I'm going to create one Linux machine on that one database. If you want a rack, then I will be probably having to select here two nodes by increasing the limit first. Then you select editions, and there are four different type of editions: standard edition, enterprise edition, high performance, and extreme performance. And depending on what features you want, you select appropriate editions. So we'll leave it to the default enterprise edition for the time being. Now, this is a new feature that came about: management of underlying storage. I can use ASM, which is automatic storage management, that requires grid infrastructure. So additional ORIC software, which is grid infrastructure. Or you can do the normal file-based repository or file-based management of your data files or database. Then you select logical volume manager. So we'll leave it to the default grid infrastructure. And this is where you select how much storage you want. So we'll leave it to the default storage. Then you come and select your SSH keys. Now, SSH keys are way to connect to the Linux machine on which database will be provisioned. So Oracle will create the database. They will give you full access on that Linux machine on which database is running. Now, the way to communicate to that Linux machine, to log into that Linux machine, is using a private public key pair, where you upload the public key onto Oracle, and public key will be stored in the server, but you keep private key safe. So make sure you keep that private key secure with you, and you'll be logging in using that private key onto the server. I'll show you as well how to do that. So in order for you to do the SSH keys, you need to first generate the SSH keys, and you generate these SSH keys using a tool called PuttyGen. Now again, I've covered all this in past for you, so you should find a video on the URL k21academy.com/OCI51 if you want to know how to generate the SSH keys. So I've already created SSH key. I'm going to simply browse it here, and I've already created this public key.pub. So there's a public key. There should be associated private key as well for me here. So I've selected the public key, click on open. Now, this is where you're selecting the licenses, where the Oracle will charge you for the license as well on the cloud, or you're bringing your on-premise licenses, which means you already have it account, and you already have the licenses to run the databases on-premise, and you're bringing those licenses onto the cloud. So bring your own license. We leave it to license included. Now, this is where you select the network. Now, again, this is one I've noticed in our training programs. A lot of DBs trip on this networking. So you should have the understanding of networking. Now, again, what all things a DBAs and apps DBAs on Oracle Cloud will do, I've created the previous episode. That's episode number 35 was about same. So networking will be part of that as well. So if you want to know what all roles and responsibilities of DBAs that DBAs should be doing, then previous episode 35, which is k21academy.com/35 will list all this, and networking is one of them. So it's good to have that networking knowledge. So here you're saying in which network you are going to create, or where is your the compartment in which you have a network, and the Linux machine will be created inside that network on which database will run. So database will run on a Linux machine. That Linux machine will run on top of a network, and that network will, where is that network? So because it's a fresh account, cloud account, I've not created any network. I'll quickly show you here how to create a network, which will be, you will need two things, a network and a subnet. Now, we can go a little bit deep into where you can create the database inside a public subnet and private subnet. I'm not going to cover that in detail here. If you want to know more about what is subnet, what is VCN, how do you create a public subnet, private subnet, all those things, then you can have a look at again k21academy.com/1009321. So I'll pause it here. I'll simply go here. We'll come back to the screen in a minute. I'll go back here and create a new screen here and create the network. So simply go and say networking and VCN, and I'll create a VCN and a subnet here. So VCN and say K21 Academy and underscore VCN1. I'll again same thing, compartment, in which compartment is going to go, root compartment, and I'll create the plus related resources, and I'll explain it in a minute. By default, if you're new, create related resources. If you are experienced, then simply create a virtual cloud network, and related resources like internet gateway, routing table, you create them manually. We'll leave it DNS. It's going to create me 3 public subnet, and I will create our Linux machine in one of them. So I'll just simply say create virtual cloud network, which will go and create these network in which I'm going to create my database now. So I'll close this. And if you notice here, I got 3 subnets, I got internet gateway, and I got routing table to go to this. Basically, I can now connect this machine or database machine from internet. So from security point of view, it's not a good practice, but we want to show you demo on how to do that. Again, if you want to go deep into topics like networking, k21academy.com/1009321. So I'll go back to the database, same create DB. So I've selected my keys again, license included. And now if you see under the network, I should see my subnet which I created, which is k21academy.com VCN. So I've created the VCN, and then VCN will have a subnet. So I've selected my subnet as well. Now, because I've selected a public subnet, I'm going to get a public IP apart from the private IP. So I'll get 2 IPs, private and public. I've selected the public IP. So I'll get a public IP on this machine because I'm selecting a public subnet. Now there's a new feature came a couple of months back, which is network security group, which is a kind of a firewall, but at a IP or virtual IP level. Again, if you want to know what is the difference between security list and network security group, then have a look at another blog which I've done in past, which is k21academy.com/OCI48, where we discussed about difference between security list and network security group. So we'll leave it default. If you want to do the host name, you can prefix here the host name. So we'll say K21 Academy DB01. This is the machine name on which my database is going to run. I can select the advanced options. Here you select the fault domain. Fault domain is again the concept from availability domain, a region. So region and availability domain, and then third one is fault domain, which is a collection of your servers on a specific way. Again, I've covered this in previous episodes. Have a look at k21academy.com/OCI27 if you want to go deep into fault domain. So we'll leave it to the default fault domain. So this is basic infrastructure part. You click next to now provide the database information. So I'll say which database, what is the database name? So I'll say again K21DB01. This is my database name. You can specify any name of your choice. I think its limit is 8 characters. Then it will say display all the available versions. By default, it will tell you high level. That should be good enough. 12102 is the one which I'm selecting. You can say display all, and it'll go a specific patch set level as well. So I'll go with the default 12.102 latest, or maybe let me go to, we'll later use this for patching. So I'll say 12.102, but I want maybe instead of July patch, I want to go with April patch set. So 16th April 2019, and later we might use this database for patching. Then what is the password you want to set for this user? Specify the password here, and then you select what database type is OLTP or DSS. And then you get an option to enable backup now. Again, this feature came a couple of months back where you select what is the frequency of the backup, how often you want to retain it, and then at what time the backup should run. So I'll say it's nighttime. So we'll say 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. And then if you want, you can click on this advanced options and select the character set. And once you've provided all this, simply click on Create DB System. So it's saying you've reached your service limit 0 virtual machine CPU cores. That means I don't have access to create, or I've already created the database on this machine. I'll need to raise my limit. So I can go and request for this exception or limit raise. I can simply go here and click on administration or governance, and here under limits and quotas I can request to increase my limit and say ask Oracle to give me additional resources to create this database. But I hope you understand the concept. You will be able to then simply once the database creation will take roughly around 30 minutes or so, and then you will be able to then connect through PuTTY. You will get a public IP, and then you can access that while connecting through the PuTTY. So let me connect to another our paid account so that I can show you how does it will look like. So I've logged in from our paid account, and if you see here now in the status, it's now provisioning the database. I've selected now this time Frankfurt region, and in this I have multiple regions assigned here. So I have UK South, US, two regions, and Germany. So I'm creating in a Frankfurt region, and it's now showing me status as provisioning. I should be able to see now here, this is my database provisioning. I have one node, which is single DB or single host. Patches right now is showing 0, and this is where I'll go and look at all the patches. So let this machine come create, and then I'll show you how do you connect to this machine. So I'm back now. It took me roughly around 1 hour, 15 minutes or so. In past, I think I've noticed it created a database in 30 minutes or so, but this time it took me and roughly around 1 hour, 15 minutes or so. So if it takes slightly longer, then it's totally okay. Don't worry about it. Just give it time. And once it's created, you will see the status like available. Now this is where it'll have all the details like which availability domain in which we created, what kind of a shape we picked, compartment we picked, the DB system version, and I think I mistakenly added 18C. It should have been 12C, but it's 1904 version, which is April CPU 18. I should have created a 12C, but it's okay. Then if you want to find the IP address of this machine, because I'm going to connect to this machine, you click on nodes under here, and you see here public IP. Now if you don't see the public IP here, that means you have not created it inside a public subnet. You selected a private subnet, and this is where I see commonly in our training program, where we give this as a dedicated module, and we go a little bit deep and we cover other things like Exadata, provisioning on Exadata cloud service, autonomous databases, and so on. So in that training, a lot of students say, oh, we couldn't see the public IP. That means they created or you've created it in private subnet. Now with that, with public subnet, you will also get the private IP. If you want to connect to this private IP via the on-premise, then you'll need things like fast connect or VPN connect. But because I have the public IP, I can pick up this public IP and now use the PuTTY to connect. Now, so I'm going to open a PuTTY. I've typed here the IP address, and then you go under here auth and make sure you've selected the private key correctly. Also, what I've done, I've shared or entered that under data, I've entered the user as OPC, or if you don't use the OPC user, it will prompt you which user you want to connect. So the IP address is 130.168.253.155 and click on open. First time I'm going to get that saying that the server host key is not cached. I want to cache it, say yes. and then you've logged in as OPC user straight in. Now, if you do PS minus EF and grep for SMON, which is a system monitor process, SMON, and you see the DB 1121 which I created earlier with running from Oracle user. So I can then switch user as sudo su minus Oracle, and then I should have a environment, or my environment variable should all be set. I simply say SQL plus root SSDBA, and I have full access on this machine now, this VMDB. So select star, or so I can say set head off, select star from $V database. And if I enter, it will tell me my DB creation date is 21st of November. That's when I'm recording this. And it will give me all the other details as well. This is my DB unique ID and so on. It's running on a Linux x86 user. I can also come out of this and sudo to grid user, that one which is running the grid. So if I see processes running from this, this is where my grid infrastructure, ASM, and other tasks are running from this. So if I do PS minus EF and then grep for SMON, and I have ASM which is running from grid user, my database running from Oracle user. So I've successfully created a database and I've managed to connect to that as well. So that's pretty much all about creating a database on virtual machine database, or VMDB. Now, if you want to know more roles and responsibilities, I've done a previous episode was exactly on this point, where we looked at what are the roles and responsibilities of DBAs. So there are a lot of work required for DBAs on cloud, and to watch the previous episode where I covered roles and responsibilities, go to k21academy.com/35. That will have the roles and responsibilities of DBAs in cloud. Well, that's how you create a database on Oracle Cloud. And trust me, it's all doable and possible, and you can learn all this very, very quickly. I have done this. Hundreds of our students in our training program have done it, so you can do it too. And if you like today's episode and want to learn how to go from Oracle DB or Apps DBA to an Oracle Cloud DBA, then I'm doing a free masterclass explaining why Oracle Cloud is a better option than AWS or Azure for DBAs. I'll also cover 8-week roadmap for DBAs to go from complete beginner to an expert cloud DBA, including hands-on lab that you must perform in order to get a higher paid job. I'll also bring our cloud DBA expert Rajiv, who will cover the database options available in Oracle Cloud, including Exadata and Clouded Customer. We'll also share some of the success stories of our students to inspire you who have successfully transformed themselves from DBA to Cloud DBA, and why you must also upgrade to Cloud DBA. So make sure you register for a free masterclass at k21academy.com/clouddba02. Set aside approximately 2 hours, come up with a lot of questions, and I'll be taking up all those questions during the session and remaining ones towards end in this free masterclass. And trust me, it will be fun. So register at k21academy.com/clouddba02. I'll see you next week. This is Atul from Team K21 Academy. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I'll see you next week.